Hello everyone, as promised, I want to quickly show you guys what we have been discussing in class. The very kind of first step in Premiere Pro, how to create a new project, how to properly save it, and how to import your assets and start doing a very kind of basic edit. So you launch Premiere, you get a screen like this. I have more stuff here, and the reason is that this kind of shows me the last projects I've been working on, so I can easily click on one and it would load it up for me. In your case, probably that will be your first project you're opening, so you just create a new project. You might get a slightly different screen just because I am running a slightly older version of Premiere, just due to the fact of certain plugins I'm running. But at the end, I think you hit cancel and then you hit create. So first thing I want to do, I want to name my project. We'll call this assignment 1, for example. And then I want to save this properly. So it's very important to kind of do these steps, and rather than just saving everything on your desktop, it's going to create a lot of problems, trust me. So in this case, I am going to make a folder. So I have it here. I'm going to come, and so I have a Surfer commercial folder. I've put all my assets in there already. These are the things you have, which is your footage, your music, and your sound effect. In here, I'm going to make a new folder, call this edit, create, and I'm going to save. So when I choose, it's going to save my Premiere Pro file into this folder, and I've called it assignment 1. So I hit OK. Might take a second or two. And there we go. We have a Premiere Pro launched up. I am in my Essential Graphics mode, but what I'm going to do, first thing, actually, you know what? I am going to start importing my assets. As you see, I don't see my project area here. The reason is that I am running 2 monitors, so I have everything that's to my left. So this is what I have to my left. For you, it's probably at the bottom here. And you can easily kind of move these around. So if you want it here, now I have my project here. It's just, you can easily grab these tabs and just put them wherever you want. So under my project tab, this is the little window, as I said, it's kind of the brain of your project. This is where you import all your assets, create your new sequences. It's all done within here under the project window. And right now I'm working on my first project, my first Premiere Pro file, which is assignment 1. So I can double click here to import, or I can go File, Import. Either or works. So now I want to navigate to the original folder I created and import my footage, my sound effects, and my music. So I'll come, I'm here, here, and what I can do, here's another important thing. If I bring this folder, if I import this Surfer commercial folder, it would kind of forget about my subfolder. So I want to come within here. I want to select these things I want to import. So hold Shift button. So I'm importing these 3. That's all I need for now. Hit import. And I have my footage, I have my music, and I have my sound effects. Usually when I start any project, first thing I do, I come here and kind of look at my footage and make sure there's no problems. So everything is 23976, except this last clip, as we talked about. I did that on purpose. We'll get back to that. And everything is 1920 by 1080, which is awesome. Next thing I want to do, I want to obviously start editing this. And in order to do that, I have to create a new sequence. Right now, as you see here, I have no sequence. So I do my edit in my timeline. In my timeline, I want to make a sequence and do all my editing there. And I can have multiple sequences in that timeline for, let's say I have a 30-second edit and a 60-second edit of the same thing. So I can make multiple sequences and work on it that way. Again, something we'll get to eventually. So what I do, again, in my project window, I right click, I'll make a new item, and that's my sequence. As you see, sequence has a lot of settings you can kind of manipulate in order to kind of get what you need, but the easiest way is to just name it. So this would be my edit 01. Hit OK. So now all of a sudden I have a sequence here, edit 01. So the easiest way to make sure your setting of your sequence matches your footage is to do it this way. So I come here, I click one of my clips. I'm going to move this again to my left so I can kind of everyone can see better. I come, but okay, doesn't matter, anywhere here. So again, I hit letter I for an input and hit letter O for an out point. So I have selected a little section of my clip, which is about 4 seconds and 4 frames long. I click and drag anywhere here. You cannot click and drag here. It has to be on the image. All right, so I'm going to click and drag, as I said, anywhere on the image and into my sequence. It gives me this prompt. It is basically saying that the setting of my footage does not match the setting of the sequence. This can be multiple things. This can be frame rate, this can be resolution, this can be bit rate, this can be a lot of things. So it's telling you that do you want to keep everything as is, or do you want to change the sequence setting in order to match the footage? Once again, this is very, very important. You always want to change the sequence setting in order to match the footage so you don't have any render issues. So I hit that. I am good to go to kind of start my editing process. Also, I am in my color space right now. For you, again, since most of you are running a newer version of Premiere, this is probably a little bit different. You have another icon right on top right corner here with a little blue dot on it. When you click that, you can choose your different workspaces. Let's go in the editing workspace because you have the most real estate in your screen to kind of do your thing. Some of you might have your toolbars on this side. I just have, like, that's the way I have set up my thing, so you can always move things around as I showed you before. Kind of make it your own, whatever feels comfortable to you. And I am going to go ahead and kind of click on a couple more clips and start my editing process. And just kind of dragging through the footage. Just like first I like to kind of go over every footage, like every second of the footage, and find my best parts. I like this little part, for example. I'm not a big fan of that zoom, so I just kind of grab it from here. Again, I hit letter I, hit letter O. Again, I know I skipped a few clips. And here's another thing. You can drag, click and drag when this from here. You can also click and drag from here. This logo. So does the same thing. The only difference is that as you see, some of my clips here have just a purple square. Some of them have a purple square and a little green thing. So with this, it's telling me that that particular clip has audio and video. And in terms of these, it only has audio. So if I'm like on a clip that has both audio and video, let's say here, I hit letter I for input, hit letter O for output. If I click and drag from the image itself, I am importing both audio and video, as you see here. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. And I am using up and down arrow to move between clips. Up and down arrow moves to your next edit point. So as you see, it brought in both audio and video, but if I just click and drag from this little icon, I can only bring video or I can only bring audio, a little thing. And I'm just going to undo those by hitting Command Z. Let's talk about this last clip. So everything is 23976 except this one, which is 120 frames per second. So technically this is obviously shot in slow motion, but when you play it back you notice that it's actually not slow motion. The reason is that it was shot at 120 frames per second and it's also playing it back at 120 frames per second. So what we want to do, we want to kind of tell Premiere Pro to play this back at 24 frames per second. How do we do that? Select the clip, right click on it, go to Modify. Once again, select the clip, right click, go to Modify, and then go to Interpolate Footage. And then right now it's telling me that the frame rate is set to be 120 frames. I want to assume a new frame rate for this, and I will make that 23.97. And I hit OK. And now as you see, this has changed to 23.97. It's no longer 120. So if I play this back, now I have slow motion right here. So I can kind of start bringing things in. So the way I do this, if I editing this, I literally go over every clip and bring all my favorite sections of each clip. And here's another thing. This is like, some people were slightly confused about this. So I'm kind of back here. Let's say I am on just this clip and I'm looking at it and I like this part. Again, I hit letter I and I hit letter O and I bring this in. I still can navigate this clip and bring more parts of it in. As soon as I bring this in, this is entirely independent of this. So I can kind of go and be like, okay, you know what? I also like this part. Again, hitting letter I, maybe not that part. I like this part where there's like a little bit of background action. Looks like you have some production value. So again, hitting letter I. And I can start and stop my play by just hitting the space bar. So usually my fingers are on I and O and my thumb is on the space bar. So again, I can select another section of this clip. I can bring it in. So both these little clips are from kind of a clip number 17. So this is entirely independent. So you can have multiple sections of one clip brought in. So usually I go over everything, find my favorite clips, and then before I start really putting it together, I kind of find my music. Because especially in a case like this, music is very important. Music is going to dictate your pace, dictate your cuts, all this. So you don't want to start putting it together without kind of knowing where you want to cut it to. So I'll just, and with the music, it works exactly the same. Let's say I like this track. I want to use it from here to the end, about 43 seconds long. I select it. As you see, I cannot grab the music, so I gotta kind of bring it in from this little icon. Just hit, bring it in. Now I have music in. Another thing we talked about, I have set my preferences in order that when I bring a clip, they are never attached to the audio. As you see, video and audio are independent of each other. Most, by default, Premiere Pro, when you bring something in, they are, they are kind of not independent of each other. They're kind of attached together. So all you have to just select it, hit Command L, and then you can just kind of get rid of the audio in this case. So, and I bring in my music, and start honestly playing around with it and start kind of making my edit and piecing it together. All right, guys, I'll try to make more of these little kind of reviews of the day as we kind of throughout the course. So hopefully this was helpful and you were able to kind of at least get your project started. And another thing, every time I save this before I go, so I want to make sure I hit Command S, or you can go File, Save As, and save it. So make sure you save the file. If I hit Command H, it hides the thing for me, so I can come back here. So this is where I saved all this. And if I come to my Edit folder, this is the Adobe Premiere Pro project file, but also automatically Premiere makes an autosave folder for me, which autosaves, I think the default is set to every 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes it autosaves a version for you, so in case something crashes, something happens, you have only lost 30 minutes of work rather than anything more than that. So that is why it's good to kind of save everything properly, so you have this autosave folder exactly, you know where it is. And so if you need to, you can refer back to it. Also, please don't save your projects as untitled. I noticed a lot of people were doing that, because if you do this, then when you have 5 different projects, they're all named untitled, and it will be very hard to kind of figure out what is what. So put a name to it. All right, guys, hope this was helpful.